up, you guys? This is Rob from The Gay Guy Plays, and today on the most interesting Warframe ever, we are back with another episode where we take a look at the various themes, mechanics, and even sometimes community reactions to Warframes that make them explicitly unique and different. So, as you can see, we've got Equinox loaded up because she is going to be the subject topic of today's episode. So keep in mind that when I say the most interesting Warframe ever, it isn't one specific Warframe, because we have a bevy of very interesting Warframes in game. So if you're interested in taking a look at what makes Equinox a little bit different from the rest, a little bit more unique, a little bit more special, stay tuned. At her very core, Equinox has always given people a reason to talk about her, whether it's defying gender norms in her more masculine day form, or being the first shapeshifter on the roster. While her kit was complex, introducing many new mechanics, her fashion frame was even more involved, juggling 3 different forms all using the same color selector. But while fashion frame is endgame, and while breaking societally imposed perceptions of gender is amazing, it is her abilities that really give us a sneak peek of the potential of future Warframes. Now, on the surface, a lot of people like to praise Equinox for her ability to swap forms and access different variants of the same ability. However, I personally feel like that's actually one of the least interesting things about her. From having the first sleep to having the first ability triggered by other players, as well as having one of the most powerful scaling AoE effects in game, Equinox offers up some very unique gameplay that may have slid under the radar. Starting with the rest portion of her second ability, Rest and Rage, this was the first time we ever saw the sleep ability applied in game. While there were several other very powerful CC effects in existence, this was the first one that had a damage threshold attached to it. For those who don't know, at its base, rested enemies can be awoken if they take more than 50% of their health in damage. And while this might seem like a downside, the tech behind it does mean that we could potentially have abilities that trigger at certain health thresholds, like a passive that gives us a boost in armor, power strength, or attack speed when we've lost 50% of our health, or maybe even an ability that would grant us and surrounding allies buffs when enemies fall below a certain health percentage. Moving along to Pacify and Provoke, this one actually does double duty when it comes to interesting mechanics. Pacify actually calculates the distance an enemy is away from you and reduces their damage output as they get closer. Now, this isn't the first time we've seen this mechanic, as there are such things as radial damage. However, this is the first time that we've seen it utilized in a buff variant, and just goes to show that it's something that DE can employ in different ways, which is really exciting from the Provoke portion of this skill. This variant grants a power strength boost to surrounding team players and only drains energy from Equinox when an ally casts. This introduces a brand new mechanic, activation upon ability use. This has so many potential uses, from health or shields upon ability activation, even to things more advanced like invisibility, creating decoys, or even specters. Now, of course we couldn't close this out without talking about her final ability, Mend and Maim. While its mechanic didn't originate with her, as Mace's ballistic battery pioneered the storage and release concept, Equinox was the one who really showed off its efficacy, storing kills not only from herself, but from other teammates as well. And not only did she show off that it could be used for offensive abilities, but that she could use it for healing as well. Its potential utilization for buffs, debuffs, and other scaling effects like group-wide iron skins is definitely mind-boggling. And while Equinox features a ton of very powerful effects, I think that one of the most interesting things about her is how fair she is. Rest may open enemies up to melee finishers and stealth damage multipliers, but it can expire before its full duration is up. Rage causes enemies to take more damage, but they are granted a speed boost in exchange. Provocation gives allies more power, but at an energy cost to Equinox. And while Mend and Maim can provide insane amounts of healing and damage, you have to work in order to raise those numbers. So not only do her mechanics raise interest for outside use, but the fact that they also stay true to her theme may just make her one of the most interesting Warframes ever. Now, that brings this segment to a close. However, if you would like to hear discussion about all of the potential uses of Equinox's mechanics, be sure to stay tuned for the gameplay coming up next. Now, when it came to mechanics, Equinox was definitely one of the ones that I wanted to cover under the most interesting Warframe ever, because legitimately, there's so many nuances to her kit that I don't think a lot of people quite comprehend. She's a very, very subtle frame, and I guess, I mean, we have abilities like Maim, which is like, I want to say like her showstopper, but the way her ability and the rest of her kit works is just so like nuanced and interesting that it's kind of different. One of the things I didn't get to point out in the actual review was her ability Pacify. Not only does it have the ability to kind of like make enemies hit you for less the closer they are to you, but one of the things that they do is they take into account how many enemies are actually surrounding you at that point in time, and it calculates its cost based on the amount of enemies that are affected. So again, her entire kit just has this very subtle nuance to it that I think can be utilized in many different ways. Like the health threshold on sleep, I was like, oh my god. So one of the things that's been prevalent in many other games that you've seen as passives or you've seen as abilities is that when, you know, you get low, sometimes enemies go into their berserk range, right? And I was like, well, since you can dictate certain effects happening at certain health thresholds, wouldn't that be absolutely amazing to have a frame that could legitimately go berserk? And I think that was like one of the coolest things out there when I was like putting the script together. I was like, oh my god, a fucking berserk frame would be awesome. Like the lower they are on health, the more their damage output is buffed, or maybe that could just be turned into a buff itself, you know what I mean? Maybe something that allows you to regenerate your health slowly, or increases your armor drastically, but also gives you the ability to give yourself a power buff at low health, so you might actually consider being at low health for longer, you know what I mean? Or something, because I actually had seen this in other games prior, where healers would actually get this ability called like Feast. So whenever enemies would get low, it would kind of send their allies into almost this like bloodlust, and for every enemy slain during that, they get like all of these cool effects. And of course, there was always like the Shadow Knight one where, oh my god, let me just, are you gonna just die? Thank you. Just, I'm not sure what's going on, but just die. Thanks. Like, sometimes you just need to get the job done. But legitimately, it was kind of like seeing all of these effects that had to deal with enemy health thresholds or even ally health thresholds was absolutely incredible to me. And I thought that it was so, I thought it was so fantastic. Mainly because of the fact that it's not really something that a lot of players think of is, you know, something triggering at certain health thresholds, maybe even having different buffs. Maybe there are certain weapons in League of Legends, not League of Legends, it's Smite. Smite has these things, where you get a certain item, and the item provides you a certain buff when you're over a certain amount of health, and then a certain buff when you're under a certain amount of health. Oh my god, don't, I knew it. But yeah, no, it's kind of like one of those cool things where you can use health percentage to dictate what the actual ability effect is, and I thought that was fascinating because that's not something that we've seen in Warframe very much, if at all, aside from this ability right here, right? And then also having abilities trigger on ally effects, or maybe even enemy effects, you know what I mean? Having things happen when an enemy strikes you, maybe even the ability to kind of, let's pick that because that's gold, so we need that. Having enemies become staggered when they hit you with an attack, you know? We have things that kind of cause procs. Why not have like an aura around your Warframe that causes enemies to stagger whenever they hit you? That's a really cool thing because it's reactive, you know what I mean? It's this cool reactive buff whenever something occurs, something else occurs in turn, or maybe every time an enemy attacks you, they become less and less powerful, they deal less damage to you. I think it's fascinating, like all of these abilities being able to kind of trigger these things, and of course, you know, we have Mend and Maim, and I didn't put this in the video because I kind of chatted about it when we were talking about activated abilities having the potential to create specters, or activated abilities able to create decoys, which I think is still a very, very fascinating effect. Because I really like that whole, oh, you activated an ability, here's an extra thing that you should get, you know what I mean? Either create a decoy, create a specter, maybe even give them a protective shield for a moment, something along those lines I think is really, really fascinating, but hear me out. So we're talking about Mend and Maim, we're talking about killing enemies to grant a crazy scaling bonus effect. What I think would be absolutely amazing, and just hear me out, because I know that some people are going to be like, I don't know about that, Rob. Wouldn't it be fucking amazing, just absolutely mind-blowingly amazing, if you could store up enemy kills, you know, store up kills on enemies, right? And then your ultimate would be to unleash a freaking, like, some sort of golem or some sort of automaton or some sort of your own, like, creature creation, like a big old pet, whose health and damage scales off of the amount of damage that you've done. Almost kind of like sacrificing to like a demon god, sacrificing to like some sort of demon creature in order to unleash it on your enemies, and having its damage scale. You know what I mean? I think that is something that is definitely fascinating, and something that's definitely, you know, there's definitely potential for it. There's definitely something that you could do there with these abilities, because at the end of the day, and that's what I really like what I had said about Equinox, is I really find her abilities to be very, very fair. Everything has a little bit of a cost to them, you know, there's a little bit that you have to pay for them, and I think one of the big things that we were going through at the time of Equinox's creation was a lot of the press forward to win frames, and she was kind of like a way to create a press forward to win frame with a caveat. It's like, here, you can have this insane amount of damage, you can do all of these insane amount of things, but you gotta kill other enemies first. You gotta sacrifice blood to the blood god in order to make more blood leak from bloody stuff. I don't know, don't ask me. It's really, really late when I'm recording this, so you're gonna have to give me a little bit of a break. You're gonna have to give me a break with that Kit Kat bar. But that's kind of like what it all boils down to, is that she really has access to a lot of very interesting mechanics. A lot of interesting mechanics that are kind of under the hood. You know, when you think of Equinox, you think of the big explosions of maim, right? That's like the big thing that she's known for, or being able to swap abilities. But I mean, that's all well and good, having access to a second set of abilities, but let's face it, that's all it is. It's a little toggle that swaps your outfit. It's a toggle that swaps your outfit, basically. You know, I'm just being real. It's a toggle that swaps your outfit and gives you access to some new abilities, right? It's basically like, we designed a frame in 2/3 of another frame, and we're gonna smush them into another frame, and you press a button to make those frames do the things, right? But legitimately, the rest of her kit is what really excites me the most, because of all of the things that, you know, it represents. And you're gonna die again. This glaive just likes me too much and likes to explode all over me with its slashing goodness. But yeah, no, that's definitely the thing that fascinates me about her kit, is just all of the other potential uses. And you guys know that that's kind of like my thing, is, listen, I've actually been, you know, I was on a bit of a stream earlier, and, you know, the person was new to Warframe. They've had experience in a lot of other video game titles before, and they're like, wow, the coding in this game, for all of the things that you could potentially do to your enemies, and for all of the things that could potentially happen to you, must be absolutely insanity, right? And I completely agree. So one of my big stances is, I think what makes things really interesting is looking at the mechanics that actually currently exist in game and seeing how they can be repurposed. And that's why I'm so like, oh my god, think about it, wouldn't it be cool if we had a mechanic that was very, very freaking similar to Equinox's Mend and Maim, but instead of, you know, storing up a big heal, what she would do instead is store up the massive remains of a crazy, like, demon creature, or, like, you know, it doesn't even have to be a demon creature. It can just be like maybe some sort of environmental Trent, or some sort of crazy mech, or a spirit warrior, some shit like that, you know. I think that's definitely something that would be very, very cool and different and unique in game, and it's different and unique, but it's using existing mechanics, which is why I'm really kind of like, you know, why I really want to root for it, because there's some new coding to it, but it's currently based out of something that already exists within the game. And the health threshold thing is just not something that too many people, you know, think about. You know what I mean? Wouldn't it be crazy if we just had a frame that just went burst? I mean, we already have. I know we have Valkyrie. We already have a Berserker frame. Or maybe we had a frame that, you know, once you got to a certain health threshold, they became super incredibly tanky. So what people would always do is build them, build them extremely tanky. You know what I mean? They would build them with the purpose of making them have low health, so they would be an extreme tank. Having those kind of nuances is really interesting. Or maybe even, let's say, maybe even having the ability for a frame to be extremely offensive based, have them being extremely offensive based when they are at full health, and then making them extremely tanky when they're at low health. You know what I mean? Being able to give these different buffs depending on the situation would be really interesting for a frame. And of course, you know, cast on activation, being able to determine the amount of energy that you consume based on how many enemies are currently around you. That's definitely something that is extremely interesting. So let me know what you think about other potential uses for the abilities that I've kind of spotlit. Oh my god, are we like locked? There you go. I was like, oh no, it's all over. But yeah, no, I wanted to toss that out there to you guys. Let me know if there's anything that you guys think would be really interesting to have linked into, you know, health-based abilities, maybe storage-based scaling abilities. Let me know what you guys think about all of that, because I think it's a really interesting conversation to have. And, you know, maybe there's something that you think might even be cooler than a big, crazy, like, demon dog creature. I don't know. You let me know in the comments below. I love to hear all of the creative things you like, and let me know how you are liking the series of most interesting Warframe ever. Leave it all down there. So I'm gonna let you guys go, and as always, love somebody, hurt nobody, and touch your body. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.